cheating. Everyone's definition of cheating is going to be different. To some people, in the YouTube comment section, using glitches in a speedrun is considered cheating to them. What is and isn't allowed in speedrunning comes down to each individual community, in form of community votes. And while certain rules are overall agreed upon, there are certain rules which continues to be a hot topic in communities to this day. And one rule in particular has been a hot topic among the speedrunning community for over 20 years now. And that is, when does a speedrun start and when does a speedrun end? This might seem like a very simple question to some, but over time, it has been made obvious that it is a very divided topic. Is it cheating to skip inputs to progress through the intro cutscene, or is it not? And this topic was recently voted upon in the Wind Waker community, but people had such an issue with how the vote was carried out and held that it is actually being re-voted on now. And games like Super Mario Sunshine, which has been discussing this for years at this point, did agree to allow to skip the 7-minute intro cutscene. And now, even major games like Ocarina of Time has finally started to have discussions in looking into possibly having a vote on when timing should start. So, today, I thought I would go into the history of speedrunning, go over how timing rules have changed over the past 20 years, some notable games which has openly gone against the kind of norm in terms of speedrunning rules, as well as the most common arguments for and against the use of intro cutscene skip. But, with all that out of the way, please do not forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel because it really helps me out a lot. And with that being said, let's get straight into it. But before we get further into today's video, I want to thank today's sponsor for making this video possible, which is Counterside. Yes, that is right. For all my Weeb fans out there, this is a great time because if you guys don't know, Counterside is a mobile game which is made specifically for anime fans. Now, all the characters are very attractive live 2D graphics, and the BGM is carefully crafted just like the story, so you can really experience some high quality gameplay right on your phone. And similar to Clash Royale, it is a game where a character can be placed and fight automatically. But obviously, depending on the combination of characters, you can use a variety of different strategies that can be implemented. And best of all, in my opinion, is that unlike many gacha games, this game is overall very generous and offers tons of free content and opportunity for your gameplay experience. But if any of this doesn't interest you, definitely be sure to check out the link in the description of this video. Thank you so much, Counterside, for sponsoring today's video. Now, before we take a deeper dive into the argument for and against this ruling, I would like to take us all the way back to the early 2000s, because back then, things were very different in speedrunning, and I think it's important to take a look at how far we've come since and how the rules have changed over the past 20 years. Back then, things were very different. Instead of using speedrun.com, the main form of keeping track of speedrunning records was Twin Galaxies. Now, I know in recent years this company has become a bit of a joke in the speedrun community, but back then, it was considered the golden standard for getting your speedruns verified. And these runs had one very notable change compared to today's mindset. Glitches were not allowed. Glitches was considered cheating to most, and despite many games like Ocarina of Time and Super Mario Bros. On the NES already having found major glitches and sequence breaks at this current moment in time, they were just not allowed to be used in speedruns. And many runs during this time period also started their timer after the intro cutscene. Famously, the very first sub 5 hour Ocarina of Time speedrun ever performed would technically not be sub 5 hours in today's mindset because it started after the intro cutscene. But if we only jump just a few years into the future after Twin Galaxies, speedrunners started to actually use glitches in their speedruns because it switched over to being majorly submitted to a website known as Speeddemon's Archive. And we can still see a lot of the changes that was made on this website still in change to this day. But despite glitches being allowed at the time, version exclusive glitches, for example, were banned. So an easy example would be Ocarina of Time and stealing the fishing rod. Stealing the fishing rod, the way that was performed with hover boots, only worked on version 1.0. So it was not allowed for speedrunning at all, because version exclusive glitches wasn't okay, since 1.1 and 1.2 could not perform it. And if we take a look at another sector in the speedrun community, for example, tool-assisted speedruns, we can see that they're still following a lot of old rule sets to this day, where timing starts from power-up of the console and ends after the credits, just like Super Mario 64 speedruns starts at console reboot. And in fact, timing ending when the credits are done is not even that old of a rule for many communities. The Paper Mario community, for example, just a few years ago, still required runners to include the credits as part of their timing because it did have inputs in it. And it wasn't until very recently when they decided to actually scrap that and end it once you beat the final boss. Now, I could continue going on and on and on about more examples, but I think you get my idea. The norm of speedrunning has continuously changed at a consistent basis over the 20 years, and defining when a run starts and ends have been very different in all communities. So now, let's take a look into some of the arguments that we're seeing for and against allowing intro cutscene skip. One thing I'd like to clarify before, however, is that all communities that I have seen to discuss the use of an intro cutscene skip, it is not about saving time. Communities that do allow it, or are discussing to allow it, are looking into starting the timer exactly like it would have been if the cutscene would have been watched. For example, in Super Mario Sunshine, runners have to start their timer at 5 minutes and 40 seconds. So for runners that don't want to watch the intro cutscene, they're not losing any time. And it also states on the leaderboard if you watched the intro cutscene or not. But with that being said, let's get into some of the more popular arguments against the use of intro cutscene skip first. So, here we go. The intro of a game is an integral part, and skipping it would degrade the competitive integrity of speedrunning. Allowing the use of intro cutscene skip will give an advantage, since it can change the meta of the game, allowing runners to go faster and riskier with their early game strats, since there isn't any intro cutscene to watch anymore, or any real major time penalty for resetting, forcing competitive runners to all have to switch to using the intro cutscene skip. The intro cutscene skip is more healthy to watch, since it provides the runners with a nice break before starting a new speedrun. It takes skill and time to mash buttons, and runners have to put time into perfecting their intro cutscenes to not lose any frames on the text. And allowing intro cutscene skip would give new runners an unfair advantage compared to the time that we old runners had to put into the game. And for some of the more popular opinions I've seen for allowing the use of intro cutscene skip, they are: being forced to watch an intro cutscene is boring. It really adds up. In Ocarina of Time's Any Percent case, for example, the speedrun is 7 minutes long, meaning that almost half of the run is just cutscenes, and that's plain out not fun. Pressing A and B to skip text isn't a meaningful skill, so no real skill is lost in allowing the use of an intro cutscene skip. Many people have jobs with limited free time, and with a reset-heavy category, saving minutes on every reset is a game changer. Just because you don't have to watch an intro cutscene doesn't mean that every meta for the game will change. Some people just want the option to not rewatch the same intro cutscene over and over again, and just get runs going faster. As someone who's been around the speedrun community for years, I've seen many changes to games. Voting to not require the credits to be included in final time, certain communities allowing adapters or emulators to make the game more fun and accessible, and I see allowing the use of an intro cutscene skip to be part of another one in this process, making speedrunning more fun and accessible. Intro cutscene skip simply makes the speedrun more fun and doesn't defeat the competitive side of the sport. And those are some of the most popular takes that I've seen over the last 3 communities that I've looked into. But there are sure plenty more examples and opinions out there for sure. But if you have any opinions on this topic, feel free to let me know down in the comment section below. But last but not least now, let me state my take in this whole topic. I tried to not go into my takes too much while I was discussing the arguments previously, but let's get into what I think. I think intro cutscene skip is a good thing. I personally would rather spend more time playing the game than watching a cutscene. And even if the meta were to change slightly and go for slightly different strats in the early game, I would still rather spend more time playing the game and executing difficult routes or glitches instead of just spending that time watching an intro cutscene. And I also don't think everyone will change their strats just because there's no intro cutscene to watch anymore. I also think that saying that intro cutscenes are part of the speedrun and is an integral part is a little bit of a skewed view on speedrunning as a whole, considering the fact that for years, many games did allow their timer to be started after the intro, and many games did require the use of outros to be part of the game. Even Breath of the Wild, which was released only 5 years ago, started their timer after the intro cutscene. Finding a good balance in between fun and the competitive side of things is an important part, in my opinion. If a game is less fun to play, less people will run it. And I think it's totally fair to say that fun should be an argument for deciding speedrunning rules. It should never be the deciding factor or the only factor when making a decision, but I still think it deserves to be part of the conversation nonetheless. But either way, that is just my take on the whole matter. Let me know what you guys think. Should intro cutscene skip be allowed or not? Let me know down in the comment section. I really hope you enjoyed this breakdown and rundown of what's been going on in the speedrun community. If you enjoy videos like this, then please be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you want to watch 2 other speedrun videos, then you can click on the screen right now. This has been Linkus7, signing off.